Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 40th and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest way cooler and way more interesting than myself. And this week, I have the legendary Tara Bruno. How are you, Tara?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
You are always great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been
Thanks
planning
for
this for
having
a
me.
while.
Yes.
We finally got it done because you're a busy lady, aren't you?
I am. I said last year I was very, very busy and I barely made time for myself.
Yeah.
And I said, this year is the year of the Tara.
Oh, wow.
So this morning I started with, getting the usual routine, which is getting my daughter ready for school and checking early emails from anybody that's from abroad. And then I went to yoga for an hour and a half just to decompress. And then I feel like it clears my mind, and then I could deal with whatever the rest of the day has to give me.
Well, that's good. That's good, because I'm sure you'll knock it out, whatever it is that they throw your way. So, Tara, I've known you for a while, but for people who might not know exactly who you are, who is Tara Bruno, and what is exactly that you do?
So, I'm in public relations. I started in the industry in 1997, so I've been in the industry for 22 years.
Did you start when you were 5?
I love you. No, I was really, really young. I was 23 and I actually got hired and then went straight to E3 in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that's when
Atlanta
E3s were, they were very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do public relations. I've been in public relations for 22 years. I haven't changed careers at all. I, worked at multiple companies and publishers and then, agencies. And then I went independent once I had my daughter. And so now this is actually relatively new because I haven't really publicly broadcasted it, although, people who work with me know this, but so about a couple of years ago, I was always a gun for hire, and I was an independent contractor, and people would bring me into different projects to help them, build a brand or a campaign. And I actually decided to expand, and I went from one person to now 8 people in my network. Wow. So it's a network of seasoned PR professionals like me who are also contractors. So they work independent of the clients that I bring them onto. But what's really nice is that now I actually build teams for the clients that hire me. So if they need somebody other than just a project, and so that's the really nice thing. And what's great about having that network is that they all sort of have different expertise. And so based on what the portfolio looks like or the games, I'm able to pull from each area of discipline and bring them onto the campaign. And this is relatively new for me because it's always been sort of like the Tara Bruno show. And so, but I am very fortunate and I have really awesome people that are like-minded like me and in terms of working really hard, getting it done, doing whatever it takes to get done, and really just becoming, an internal extension of somebody's PR team. That's sort of how I describe it, that I'm in with you. I'm in the trenches of, sort of what your campaign is. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is a big expansion from 1 to 8. That's huge. How did you, what is your background? How do you have is there a study you follow for PR or how did you get into this and specifically video games?
So I grew up like many a gamer and very different from the gamers of today. I spent hours in the arcades. I have an older sister. She used to have to babysit me. And that's where I wanted to spend my Friday and Saturday nights in this dark arcade. And I would pump all the tokens and play like Dragon's Lair and Q*bert and, Joust and anything that was in the arcade. I was playing it and you could not get me out of these, the arcades. I froze again. Why is that happening?
It's okay. It will catch up. It will catch up.
Okay. And so pretty much I then obviously in-home gaming consoles, it was the Atari 2600 for me. And I used to get super frustrated because I would play ET and I just thought I was terrible at ET. Had no idea, the behind the scenes on it. And so I would, just, essentially play that. And then my friend had a ColecoVision and I loved Donkey Kong. So that was like exclusive to that platform. So I'd play that. And then eventually I got an N64. And so I played all these games, and then I went to college, and I didn't play as many because a lot of people back then didn't bring their consoles to college like they do now. It was just very different. We had like little dinky TVs. They probably couldn't even hold up with the software. So the hardware rather. And so then I went for I was working for my dad's company, and I went for an interview at GT Interactive Software. They were a publisher back then, and they a video game publisher, and I went for an accounting position. I liked numbers, and that's where I wanted to start. And so I went for an interview with HR, and he was like, "You're definitely not accounting. You are definitely PR." And I did not know what PR was. And so I got the job. I was the assistant to VP of Corp Com, and they had, it's like I stepped on gold. They had the first Oddworld. They had Duke Nukem. They had Unreal. They had Doom. They had Quake. They had Total Annihilation with Cave Dog.
Oh, I love Total Annihilation.
And then they worked with with Sid Meier and Civilization. I mean, they just had. I had so much exposure at such a young age to all of these top-notch developers, and I honestly had no idea. And so, I was the admin, right? So I wasn't necessarily doing the PR for these campaigns, but I had a really awesome boss by the name of Eileen Mills, and she had been at Acclaim before she came over to GT, and I was like, wow, this is a profession. Like, I get to work in games and have fun and like coming to work. This is crazy. And back then, PR was very different than it is now, right? We didn't have any social elements. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have LinkedIn. We didn't have Twitter. We literally would type up, like, I remember my holiday letter. I was chartered with that. Okay, try to get us included in holiday gift guides. I was like, okay, cool. So I literally typed up what I could, put the ESRB and the price, printed it out on red paper. Then put a bunch of, sell sheets in a folder, and then actually physically mailed these things. I mean, that's what pitching was then, right? And then with press releases, because they were a publicly traded company, I had all these like these investors and whatnot to fax the press release. Long faxing to like 30 people takes? Like insane. Insane. Nuts. So, I mean, definitely more efficient now. But so I worked at GT for a while. Infogrames ended up acquiring GT, which later became Atari, rebranded as Atari. Atari did Enter the Matrix and Terminator. So should I refresh?
Yeah, just refresh real quick.
Okay.
There we are.
I'm back.
Yeah. I'll put a nice picture on your
I was going to say,
face.
you could put a little commercial.
Yeah.
So then from GT, the Infogrames acquired, and then there was changes happening, and I was like, I don't have any, agency experience. I really think I need that. That's important to me. So I went to Edelman, and you learn a lot very quickly, but I was working many hours. I mean, because I was one of the low men on the totem pole, but I got it very quickly. And then from there, I went to a couple of jobs, and then two gentlemen, Dan Harnett and Lance Seymour, who were part of the PR team at GT, started their own boutique PR agency, High Water Group. And now you're frozen. But there you go. And so High Water Group, that's when they had clients like Majesco and Midway and Atari. And I'm trying to think what else. yeah, they just had a bunch of different, gaming clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the first people that they recruited to start with them.
Yeah.
So I did. I was there for over 10 years. I became one of the vice presidents there, along with Laura Heeb, now Mustard, Donald Mustard's wife, and this other woman, Karen Schachter, now Shilkart. So we worked together there, and then I had Alexandra, and I was commuting into the city, and I was such a hustler, and I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing the grind. And then I said, what am I doing? I never see my kid.
Yeah.
And it was such torture for me because I loved my job. I loved working for Dan and Lance. I loved, the environment. I really thrived on that. I loved my clients, but I just said to them, I resigned my position. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. I need to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So I made that decision. And then they said, that's when working remotely first started.
Yeah.
And they said, why don't you work for us? We're your first client. And we know you can't put in the hours like you do, but you could do it from home.
Yeah.
And I said, really? Okay. So I wasn't really looking at it from a business perspective or like my career. I was really just focused on Alexandra. And if I could write a press release or two or do a couple of pitches, great. Yeah. And if a paycheck came with that, awesome. But she was really my like first and foremost. So but then she started to go to school and, get older and I had more free time on my hands and more people, it was like word of mouth. And they were like, you're, working from home. And I said, I am. And they said, oh, can you help me with this PR plan? Or can you help me with this project? So little things would come up here and there. And, I would start working on that. And then probably one of the biggest things that I worked on is Disney approached me because somebody who actually worked with High Water Group before went to Disney. And she said, are you still freelancing? I said, I am. She said, we have somebody going on maternity leave. Can you come in? Yeah. So I said, sure. Yeah. So she
just
said, it's
Disney, just,
yeah. So I was like, this is great. I was actually brought on to work on a game that actually never happened initially. But then I started working on their franchises and I thought, what a great way, because my daughter was young. And she loved princesses and Disney. And I was like, this is kind of awesome, So it was a 6-month gig that turned into 3.5 years. Yeah. So they eventually brought me on to head up Fantasia Music Evolved with our harmonics. Yeah. And that's how I got to know Nick Chester and John Drake, Annette Gonzalez, Christine. So I worked with that entire team. And then I also had my hands in Disney Infinity. So I worked with John Binyaki and Blackburn then. And so I worked with them for a bit. And then my contract was up and it didn't look like there was much required in terms of my help. So after 3.5 years, that ended. And then shortly, I think it was a few months after that, or maybe it was a little longer, I can't recall, but they announced that they weren't going to be doing, publishing games anymore. Yeah. So then, from there, I just started, working with Square, independently. And then, it just, the moment I said that I wasn't me anymore and it was more than just me, it just exploded. And I had no idea that I was going to grow that quickly in such a short amount of time, but the timing was right. And a bunch of different people approached me and I really wanted it. I really wanted to, I really liked the concept. I really liked the flexibility and I really wanted it. Yeah. So I vetted, I got word of mouth and I vetted a bunch of, new candidates, people that were just like me, that were hardworking, they were independent contractors. And now, of the 8, they're, based in Austin, LA, San Francisco, and I have another one other than me in Jersey. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Do a quick refresh because you're frozen again on my end.
Yep.
And we're back. Yay. But that's like, I've been in this for like 3.5 years, maybe. I don't remember. You were one of the first names that I got to know. And then we met at E3. And then I realized everybody knows Tara Bruno. Like every person, every content creator I work with pretty much knows who you are. If someone is listening to this and they're a new content creator and they do not know who you are, and more importantly, you do not know who they are, like, how does that work? How do you find the people that you know are useful to what you do as PR?
That's an interesting question. I just think I have a good bead on the industry. And also I'm a people person. So I'm Latin. My father's from Argentina. That's the natural thing for me is to be with people. And I also like to help people out. Like that's one of my things that like people looking to break into the industry. Like I'm such a huge advocate of that because I think, you know, my dad being an immigrant from Argentina, coming here, not having anything, having to start from the ground up, basically, to become successful and hardworking. That was sort of ingrained in me from a very, very young age. And I think I brought a lot of that to the industry, more or less because this industry is so dynamic. It's so unusual. And I think that's why everybody sort of wants to be a part of that. But I also watch like on Twitter, like you're pretty interesting because I remember when all of a sudden I saw the cat wanted to be friends with me. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I was like, who's this guy? Should I know this guy? And then I sort of like did like background, like, you know, and I was like, oh, he's friends with a lot of my friends, but what does he do? And I thought, that's pretty inspiring. Like, you must feel pretty good about that. And sort of like how your approach was to the industry, being somebody that was like a newcomer, and how do you break into that? You know, now everybody knows you. So it's not just me. Everybody knows who you are, and you've created that icon for you. So like, I love that. I mean, I love anybody in the industry who's willing to like hustle and break in that way. You know, it's interesting to me because when I posted that new hire tweet, I honestly thought like maybe 10 of my friends would have been like, oh, hey, Tara, there's this person you should know. And just seeing how many people are hungry to get into the industry is just humbling. It's humbling for me because I often have to check myself and say, holy crap, like, you've been in the industry for 22 years. You've been able to sustain a career that you love. That's not many people can say that. You wake up and you want to go to work. I literally sleep PR. Like I'm like, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, that's such a great idea. And then I got to go write it down, you know? And, or I don't know. I'm sort of one of these people that just like really thrive on other people too. There's so many people in this industry that are 10, 20 years younger than me that I never at that age would have imagined doing what they do and how accomplished they are. It's pretty impressive to me. And like, I feel like I always learn from people too. And that's the thing. I can never stop. I don't know everything. I'll never stop learning. And I love a good challenge. I love when, you know, there's some sort of campaign that comes up and it's like, we need to achieve this. I'm like, okay, how can I do that? So let me think of something new or creative in order to achieve that.
That's pretty. If you do a quick, we'll just refresh every now and then.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I need to go on the record about like what you have meant to me as a content creator, because it wasn't like you have opened doors for me that would have never been open. Like I still remember the first code I got you got for me. I think it was Hitman, and it came in this like book, and it had like a video in it, and it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, I'm included in this cool stuff. And then like you always have my back when it comes to because I cannot do what I do if I don't have that in, right? If I don't get the game or I don't go to the event. Tom Brady event, you got me an invite and I got to be there with all these cool people. And that is so essential because otherwise you just burn out. Like, I think for a lot of people, this could feel like banging their heads against the wall and they're never getting anywhere. And then you meet a Tara Bruno that's like, you know what? Come with me. I remember we were hanging out at the Square Enix party that you you hosted an E3 like 2-3 years ago. We never met before.
VIP.
Yeah,
the VIP.
Exactly. Like,
that I created.
Yes. So I meet you for the very first time at the booth. I was like, hey, I'm, Wout the cat from internet. You're like, stay where you are. I have to go to the appointment. And he came back. He said, here's my number. Give me a call tonight. The party's here and there. And then I met all these people, and I was like, wow. Every day I consider myself lucky and like having been uplifted by my friends. So when people say, oh no, you got this, I'm like, yeah, well, I hustle for it. Like I try, but you need that angel investor, right? That kind of gives you your wings every now and then. So on the record, Tara, I could not do what I am doing today if it wasn't for you and people like yourself. So that is just amazing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I come from humble beginnings, and I don't forget that. My father taught me that, and he said, don't ever forget where you came from. And I think that's really something important and that I carry on. And I think that's why, for me, like, the industry is family to me. Yeah. So once we're friends, that's it. Yeah. There's no turning back. So I always have your back. Yeah. I always have your back.
Well, you are the best. You are absolutely the best. So you've been so well established in this. Do you still have moments where you're like, wow, this is just the best? Like, are you still being able to be surprised by the stuff that you do?
Every time.
Yeah? What was one of the biggest ones where you had like, holy shit, I can't believe this is my life?
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things was when Atari was a client of ours, and they, well, you took a sip, so now I have to. See?
Yeah, we are drinking, ladies and gentlemen. We have champagne and a nice Canadian rye.
I remember when we were planning Enter the Matrix and having that exposure to Shiny and David Perry. And just thinking to myself, this is so cool. Wait, we're going to do a story that's separate than The Matrix. Okay, cool. But then to have Warner Brothers backing, and we pulled out the green carpet, not the red carpet, and we had all these A-listers. It was the first time movies and games collaborated. So it was a big, big deal. And I wore a headset like Janet Jackson's Control. I felt so cool. I was like 25 and I was like making demands through my headset. I was like, oh yeah, everybody be over here. So then that was like a moment for me that's like, wow, video games are like a different type of medium. Like you can go and, basically control your own story that's separate than the film. That, that's pretty awesome.
There you go.
And I'm back. And so I thought that was pretty awesome. And the other thing is, and by the way, Marilyn Manson was DJing. He was guest DJing that night. Oh, wow. And we had this like VIP area where we are going to have like Jada Pinkett Smith and, the other stars from Enter the Matrix. And I remember my job was to make sure that the VIP area was clear. And I went up there, we're all on our walkies, and I went up there and it was like, Marilyn Manson is sitting in the VIP area. And I was like, and he had like his costume on where it was like the one eye with the contact. And I'm like, how do I go to Marilyn Manson and tell him he has to leave this VIP area because there's other people that are more important than him? So I'm like, we have an issue. And like, I remember like, somebody being like, just fix it. And I was like, okay. And I like went over, I was like, Mr. Manson. And he was so nice. I was like, thank God. So he could have been a total disaster and be like, what do you mean? I could have created like a whole thing. But I thought that was a really, really cool moment. It was the first like
There you go.
Is it my internet?
I don't know. It's probably Google Hangouts. Okay. I'll fix that. I'll make it look good.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So it was like probably the first time that was very cool to me, and it continues that way. I mean, even the Shadow of the Tomb Raider reveal, like that was very just having exposure to all the developers and so much talent. that's pretty cool. And like, I remember being at E3 and I was at a dinner at Fleming's and I bumped into somebody, I think it was John Drake, and he was having a dinner with like a Sony dinner with like all like everybody in the industry. It was like Tim Schafer, like big names there, like David Perry, like, Warren Spector, like, and I remember going down there just to say hi to everybody. And I was like, oh my God, this is like walking through Tara's memory lane. Like I've at one point or another worked alongside these super talented people. And that to me is always like this is pinch me. Like, this is my job. Like what? And I just think it's so amazing. Like I recently, started working with Obsidian and Private Division team, and they're so amazing. I mean, Tim and Leonard.
That's a huge get, by the way. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, that was, and Ancestors with Patrice. Like, these are all new people that I've never worked with. So that's refreshing. When you start to work with new people, obviously, Square Enix has, such a solid reputation too. So I just feel really fortunate, to having exposure to the PR teams at each of these individual publishers, trusting me and my team with their brands. And let me tell you something, like that's really important to me, and I always, and those are those moments where I go, wait a second, I get to go to like GDC, I get to go to PAX, I get to, and sometimes it's not that a client needs me there. Sometimes I go on my own dime. Just because I'm like totally geeking out on whatever's going on there, or like just to see my friends, or whatever it is. Yeah,
like your 10-minute entrance into PAX East last year.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But I did spend a lot of time at this new brunch place that had like jazz and great create your own bloodies. I'm like, maybe I'll just go back for that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I hope I'll make it this year to PAX East. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Maybe last minute will be great. So. Like I like hearing your stories because you have a ton of experience. And when I posted earlier that I was going to have you on the show, I was like, I'm going to have a legendary Tara Bruno. And then someone came up saying like, well, actually legendary is like underselling it. How do you maintain a relationship with all these people? Because I talk about this with content creators every now and then, that the relationship between PR and people like me who did it is sometimes a little complicated, because we are very friendly, but also like if I have to cover something and something isn't good, or it makes it harder to have that connection. You know what I mean? How does it work from your end? If say you help someone out and then a game comes out that you're repping and they trash it, or they're being absolute garbage about it, like how do you deal with that professionally and personally? I'm not sure if you got all that, or did you?
I did. Okay, I did. Yeah. I just refreshed when you were done.
Yeah.
So I think there's, you have to keep church and state separate. There's journalistic integrity. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, as long as it's not mean-spirited. And what I mean by that is that I feel like social sometimes has given people a platform to go beyond than just saying like, oh, I didn't like the gameplay mechanics in this, or I didn't like the storyline in this, or the art style was sort of, mediocre, to like, oh my God, what were the developers thinking? They're just, that's mean spirited. Yeah. That to me is not necessary.
Yeah.
So when unnecessary things like that happen, let me tell you something. I've actually tackled a few of those head on, but with the right mindset, not honing in on review score, but sort of their how they approach the review.
Yeah.
So, and I've only done that a couple of times because again, there's journalistic integrity. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I don't try to influence that in any way. My job is to be sort of the bridge, right, between the game.
Yeah.
The person who's reviewing that. And so I try to do the best to get the information and the exposure that they need throughout the campaign in order to pull that off.
Yeah.
So that's a fine line, and I never try to take it personally, although I've invested all this time into a game. Yeah. It stinks, don't get me wrong, but I try to keep it very separate.
Yeah. Well, you are, of course, like you are a super professional, so I'm sure you get better at that. But like it must be tough sometimes. And I think nowadays, like everything has flavor, right? It's not, people don't write a review. Like in the old days where like, okay, it gets a 10 for graphics and 9, that's when I grew up. That's what reviews look like, kids. You got like a grade for your graphics, your sound, and your whatever. So everything has personality now. So I can see how that is sometimes hard to deal with when they want to add the flavor, they want to add the salt. And then in a way, like it's not burning bridges, but like it's tough. And with Tomb Raider, I talked about it with a couple of episodes ago. There was someone who shall not be named, but they lifted like one scene from the native language options, and it wasn't as good as like the high-paid voice actors, and they made it look like that was the game, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that is, like, I saw that because I played through it ahead of time, so I did not have that experience. And then everybody was latching on to that one scene taken out of context in a native language option, which is, and he mentioned it, blah, blah, but still, like, people only saw the tweet with the video, right? Do you have
I'm glad you saw through that, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's because I had access to the game before
right.
It came out, right? But if you hadn't, then all you see is that, and everybody laughs because it's like 3,000 retweets. And do you, like, I'm sure you're not going to answer this. Do you just want to throw someone like that off a cliff when that happens, or do you?
No comment. No. No. You know what? Like I said, it's church and state. And there's people. I think what I was mentioning earlier about, social media as the platform, right? We didn't have that back then, right? We didn't have all the photos documenting everything that happened historically throughout the industry, like we do now. Mm-hmm. And I think that some people do it for attention grabbing. Yeah. And I would say that, that one instance was for that. Yeah. And it wasn't really, there was no context, like you said, there was no context around that, but. Yeah.
Well, it worked. Saw the same person complaining they didn't get a copy of Kingdom Hearts 3, so, I wonder why that happened. But it's interesting. Like I sometimes not struggle with it, but I'm like, okay, people give me access to this. And I was lucky, like I love Tomb Raider, so I really enjoyed the game, and then I let them know. And then there was this split between people like, people are gonna think I'm a shill, but I'm not. Like, people who know me should know my integrity from both sides of the industry, at least. But I'm glad we have professionals like you who have to deal with it, because I'm not sure if I could. I would throw somebody off a cliff. I'm just gonna let you refresh, okay? But
would it be the equivalent of like when you give the snow the middle finger?
Yes. So people don't always see, because not everybody's friends with me on Facebook. I have a thing that every first snowfall of the month, I open my garage door, and when I have to shovel, I give the snow the finger. And I've been doing this since I lived in Canada, basically. Although the first 3 times I saw snow, it was still magical to me, because where I'm from, the Netherlands, we don't get a lot of snow. So the first time I saw snow in Canada, I was like out of the window like this. Oh, look at the pretty snow. And now I'm like, fuck this snow. I hate this stuff.
I know, it's so cold. And I'm like, why do I live here? I work remote. That's what Alexandra says all the time. Why do we live in Jersey? What's going on?
Yeah. I speaking of you, Donna, I always have a question. When, like, you grew up loving games, right?
Yes.
If your 14 or your 8-year-old self knew what you were doing right now, would she be, like, mind blown?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I honestly, I think I was just really naive. I was like, I didn't realize that the industry was a business in terms of developers and publishers. So like when I went to GT, I was like, oh, you can work at a video game company? I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Sense, like I wasn't reading those publications. Let me just refresh.
We're good.
Okay. I wasn't reading those publications, to see like what was next. I was just playing games. Tons of hours of my grandfather, we used to eat at Red Lobster, and my grandfather would sneak me quarters, and I'd have the tabletop Miss Pac-Man. Yeah. And still this day, if it's in a diner or anything like that, I play it, and I remember how to clear my boards. Like, I remember my mazes. Like, I remember the puzzle. Like, and my daughter's always like, how do you know how to finish? How did you get to that? And I'm like, because I have that memory of like getting that joystick in my hand and completing those boards. So it was always part of my life. This is just a different, part of it. And unfortunately, and I wish this wasn't the case, I don't play games as much as I'd like to because I have a family. And, and it's not like at night I wind down and then I can go and play games. And Alexandra's old enough now, like she wants to hang out with us. It's not like, and some of the games that I want to play aren't necessarily good for her, right? She's still too young. She's only 12. So I find that maybe I'll pick up a controller if I'm at an event, if I have time and I'm not like about to meet somebody that I have to do an appointment with. But it's kind of disappointing to me because oftentimes I see a lot of the game. Don't get me wrong. Like obviously I'm involved, from start to finish, but I'm saying like, if I wanted to sit down and play a game from start to finish, those days are gone. Yeah. They just are. My husband and I often, we would play a lot of like, different, you remember Frequency? We would play a lot of that. Like we would play games like that. Yeah. And so we would play them together and we'd have a lot of fun, but it's just like, I did play Fantasia for a while, with Alexandra because it was something I could play with her, and Infinity. I could play with her. But anything that's a little more mature, I can't do it here. It's just impossible, so it's just a little harder.
That is hard. Yeah.
But I gotta say that, it's just a really, there's so many people in the industry that inspire me all the time. I just sort of sit back. Like, I remember how ambitious, like, Greg Miller was to pull off that show he did because the PlayStation experience wasn't happening. I would never have done that at that age. No. I was like, what? And I was like, and I supported him. I reached out to every single one of the devs, and I know he gave me a shout out, but like, I was like, that's pretty awesome. Or like, I often talk to Andrea on text, or I'll call her, and she's literally like, I think she went to like the Division event and then like flew to Australia that night or something crazy. And I'm just like, what the, how do these people, it's inspiring to me, and I just think it's, everybody I sort of, and I was thinking about this the other day, because it's important to me. Wait, let me just refresh, see if that works.
That did work.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I go into the kitchen. Maybe that changes things. All right. Let's see.
We're walking live. Yeah.
We move me. Now you see my house. Yeah. Tank's just chilling over there. If you can't.
Oh.
So one of the things I was thinking about is, just how, inspiring and how and I was reflecting on this more or less, how I am not threatened, and I find it very inspiring that there are strong women in this industry, but not only in this industry, like my friends at home, they all have this, innate, like, I know that a lot of people will say, oh, Tara, you're such a strong woman, but I pull that from other people. Yeah. I really do. Like, it's magnetic. When I was in yoga today, one of the things that she was talking about, is just how magnetic joy is. Mm-hmm. That being happy is a magnetic thing. So if you're a happy person, people are going to want to be around you because you're this positive, happy person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the same for these really strong women in the industry that I tend to gravitate towards. Yeah. I'm not intimidated by that. I actually am almost like inspired by that. Yeah. I think it's like I look at, somebody like Megan Scavio too, and, everything that she's been able to accomplish. And even my team, I'm surrounded by these really, really strong women, and my clients that I work with, so, that sort of motivates me in terms of this industry has changed a lot because it used to be predominantly a male dynamic, and it's changed over the years, and where you're having more and more, female leads in the games, and then voiceovers and to actors and, hosts and gamers. And that's my favorite. That's my favorite question that people ask. I love when someone says, you play games to a female gamer. It's like it's so right. It's so like caveman. You play games, like it's like they do. Women play games. Like an Uber driver will be like, you don't play games, It's like yes, they do.
And that is just ridiculous. Like 2019 is ridiculous. And again, like when I came in here, like when I snuck in, so when I came in here, like I met you. Strong woman. Andrea has been influential in my career. Jackie Collins, Amber Osborne, Becky Taylor. Like these are all women who are killing it in the industry. And still, I saw a thread the other day. I'm not sure if you noticed it from someone who is transitioning from man to a woman. And she said, like when I had a male name, I was worked for top studios. I would send a resume. I get like everybody would call me back. And now she has transitioned, and she's barely getting interviews.
Oh my goodness!
And it's like, I don't understand, because every successful, well, not every, like I've met a lot of successful people in this industry, but there are so many women who are just kicking ass. Like how, like I know what like you're an example for a lot of people, but how are we moving this industry? Are we moving it in the right direction, or because it's the bias of success, right? Because when I look at the industry, I see all these successful women, but I do not know how many did not make it, or how many got turned away or discouraged by the status quo. Like, do you see it still changing for the better?
I do. It's disappointing when we take a step back, for sure. Like when I see, something, the hate sometimes, just so disappointing. But I definitely think that, there's more and more strong women, female leaders. And it's empowering to me, because it does show a breakthrough in the industry. But, equally as important, I just think that there should be like this diverse group of people. I think we need to stop sort of labeling like male and female, right? It's just everyone coming together. And I think that's the thing that I'd like to see more of. You don't need to be defined by male or female. No. You can be defined by yourself, and, regardless of that. And I think that's important. I mean, I definitely think that we're moving in the right direction. I think there's a good balance between the two.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. And I think, like I said, when people see you work, I think I hope, I know they draw inspiration from that, especially from like your side of the industry as a PR. For young content creators, male or female, but in this case, because it's a little harder for women probably still to get in there, what are the tips and tricks that you would say, okay, this is what you have to pay attention to when you're going to kick down the door of this industry? Like this new podcaster who has the show with 2 listeners like me, like what do they have to do to get the attention of people like yourself to help them break in?
You know what? I just think that let me think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
refresh and think about it.
Yeah, refresh.
There you go.
Yay. I think it's, don't lose that hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose is what made you want that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Because, and just set your path and surround yourself by people that that are creative and inspire you. Don't surround yourself by anybody that is going to say that can't be done.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I love when people tell me it can't be done. I honestly thrive on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you daring me?
Yeah.
Please dare me. I'm like,
got some
please.
people to prove wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love that. I'm like, oh, you just hit a nerve. Yeah. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
But I think that, I remember when I was first getting started,
mm-hmm.
And working remotely, in fact, people mm-hmm. were like, how are you going to be a mom and be a wife and, manage all of that and, have a career?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm going to do it all. Yeah. And they were just like, well, yeah. Well, yeah. And what's funny is I think once you're in that mindset, you sort of realize that not just me, I'm talking, this is for everyone.
Yeah.
You can accomplish anything. I'm 45 years old and I'm about to do another Spartan.
Yeah.
I'm not in the condition I was when I did my last Spartan 2 years ago, but I'm going to push myself to get there.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like me raising my own bar. So that's another tip I would say. Continue to raise. Don't go by whatever the standards or anything that anybody else tells you. You set your own goals and your own bars for what you want to achieve. Yeah. What makes you feel accomplished? What makes you feel happy? And I think that's really, really important is that I wake up every single day and I say, oh my God, I can't wait to work on this thing. Like I can't wait to talk to my team. They're amazing. They really are because, they inspire me, just some of their creativity and things that they come up with. And again, I'm always learning. I don't know everything in the 22 years, but,
almost everything.
I pretend I do.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, what do you feel?
You're inspiring me just listening to you. Like,
well, it's just,
Yeah.
You know what? It's probably, it's just, I think you have to embrace all of that. You have to sort of go after things 110%.
Yeah.
Like my father talks about, and again, he gave me a lot of this, just him being an immigrant coming here. I remember at my wedding and he started his first words with, Tara, she's a freight train coming at you 1,000,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And
accurate. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, wait till I have some champagne in me. No. But I feel like, and sometimes I'm misunderstood because I feel like because I have this way about me, but I think that the people that take the time to know me know that I'm genuine and I embrace people and I want them to get ahead like you, like I like literally anything that I have, I'm like, want to send to you. Yeah. I feel like because you're gracious, you hustle for it. And to be honest with you, I love that you end up talking about it. But like, even if you didn't, like, I'm like, you know what? He's a good guy that deserves that because he works hard and that's the person you are. And those are the people that I want to help. The people that feel like they have a sense of entitlement. And there's a few people that are in the palm of my hand that I can count probably on 5 fingers. I have no time for them. Yeah. I honestly don't. I don't have time.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, like, but like just talk to you, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna take the show again to another level, because what I'm doing now is like I just started this almost a year ago, I guess, in March. And I what I struggled with in the beginning is like translating my Twitter audience to like a podcast audience or a show, because that is not at all the same. Like I was like, I'm just gonna take all those thousands of people and I'm gonna get the 1,000 views. Not at all. So sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting all this effort without the growth? But it just takes time, and getting interesting people on my show, that's absolutely going to help, because I'm sure this is going to be a killer. But I'm grateful for people like you to help me along and keep me fed all this cool stuff and information and all the stories, because like I just like love listening to you, whether it's in person or when we hang out. It's just always the best. So that's great. Like, we're lucky to have you. Like, all of us collectively, we're just lucky to have you around.
That's so nice. And I actually have a prop. I'm going to go back into the other room, so you're going to get a little tour of my thing. But I have a prop because I told you.
I'm very curious now. Your sound cut out, just so you know. I think you're unplugged. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay. So I said that you're the second. This was my first.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Play magazine.
Yeah.
It's vintage now. They don't make it like that anymore. And then you turn inside, and it's like you've got all these old school games. Mm-hmm. And then you have, I'll show you, your interview with baby Tara.
Aww. That is the best.
And
I can't believe it
Laura
took
Mustard.
So long from that interview to this interview.
You know,
such an interesting person.
As outgoing as I am, mm-hmm. I have a shyness to me.
Yeah.
And so I know. Yeah. You're like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
But the on-camera thing, I think, intimidates me. See, I have intimidation. It intimidates me a little bit, and I'm like, I don't want to see myself on the screen. Like, that's why when I was like, wait a second.
Yeah. Is video? Yeah.
This is a video?
Yeah.
No! I would do so much better if this wasn't video. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're doing great. And you freeze all the time, so I have like a lot of pictures I'm going to insert. There. You're such a natural on camera.
I try, but it's sometimes it's just I'm inexperienced in front of the camera. I think I only did. I did do an interview. One of my friends did some sort of like fashion thing, and I did that for her.
Yeah.
And she was like, go interview what you think of my little fashion thing. And I was like, all right. But also they were serving champagne. Again,
okay,
that's my superpower.
Yeah.
You give me champagne, then I'm going to go do that.
That's a perfect segue, actually, because, Tara, I asked my patrons, some of them, to ask questions for my guests. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to refresh, because I want to see your facial expression on this one. So one of my patrons, Hunter Pearson, he's a great friend of the show. I had him on my community spotlight a couple of weeks ago. He sent me a question saying, Hash, I'm getting taxed heavily this year, so I'm gonna have to reduce my my wine preferences a little bit. And since Tara seems to know her shit when it comes to wine and champagne, what is the best boxed wine or good cheap wine that she would recommend for little old Hunter?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm drinking this Prosecco. Mm-hmm. That is inexpensive. I'll show you the bottle.
Yeah.
So that's a good Prosecco. In terms of wine, there is the Crawford. I'm trying to not Cindy Crawford. It was another Crawford. Okay, so this is the champagne. That's inexpensive. Actually, it's Prosecco. That's inexpensive.
I think I have one of those.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And La Marca. La Marca is the blue label. That's the other one. But I was just told that and it's inexpensive as well, the Christie Brinkley Prosecco, because it has no sugar in it.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be really good too.
Okay.
I actually called a liquor store and asked them if they had it, and the young man that answered didn't know who Christy Brinkley was. I was like, she's the 64-year-old woman that I want to look like. Like, are you kidding me?
Hey, there you are.
Yay! I rebooted my whole computer. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it could be Google Hangouts. It's all good. All right, so we were talking champagne.
Yes, and it's a wine and cheap wine. So the Barefoot, people always like that one. I think that's like 10 and under. But I've been really bad. I got introduced to Napa a few years ago, and so now I have like all these like eclectic wine collection that comes in, and I'm like getting worse as the age goes on. Yeah.
Well, that's too bad for Hunter because he's gonna have to get some box wine for himself. But as long as he doesn't drop his Patreon tier, that's all I. That's good. But Tara, when I talked to you, we talked about joy earlier, and you're delightful, obviously. But I like every time I see you, you seem to enjoy yourself. You have a good time. You have fun. What's your secret? Just in short, what is your secret to always being so happy when I see you? This is because you see me, obviously.
Yes, that's it. I love life. I always have. That's just sort of like. And I like to do everything possible. Dancing's one of my secrets, honestly. Yeah. I love to dance. So any chance I can get to dance, it makes me feel young. And it makes me happy. Yeah. So that's one of the things. I actually, Alexandra just recently joined the gym with me, and we took a Zumba class together, and that was really fun to be able to do that with her. But I say just stay positive and work through whatever that life isn't always, and like I said, my history is very complicated. I come from a very difficult past in terms of my upbringing, but I persevered mostly because I stayed positive. Yeah. And I pushed through that. Yeah. And I think that's really important.
That's good. I'll tell you a little secret. I taught Zumba for a good 3 weeks.
No, you didn't.
I did, yeah. It's when I...
Do you have video?
No. Before I moved to Canada, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to move for this wonderful Canadian woman. I don't know what I'm going to do for a living there. So, and I used to be super heavy into Taekwondo. Still am, but since my daughter was born, I haven't trained so much. My friend, who's an instructor, he was my Taekwondo instructor, is a great friend of mine. He also taught Zumba because he's this super guy with a lot of rhythm and like he's super good at this. He was like, "I'll teach you how to teach Zumba, so when you go to Canada, you can at least do that." So he taught me to teach. Yeah, he taught me to teach Zumba. God, that's complicated, man. You have to count and you have to do the moves and everything. Respect for those teachers who are great at it, but
show me some moves.
No.
Maybe. Was that the most interesting job you ever had?
I don't know. I had a lot of jobs because I was terrible in school, Tara, when I was younger. So I after high school, I kind
terrible meaning like in terms grades wise, or terrible that you misbehaved.
But not because it was too hard for me, because it was too easy for me, so I didn't do my shit. So after high school, I kind of did a year of this, year of that, but never finished a secondary education, which obviously bit me in the ass when I was like 25. I was like, God damn, like I don't know what to do. I have no education. So I went back to school, night school, for 4 years in comms and marketing. So during that 4 years, when I went to night school, I had all kinds of work. I worked in insurance. I worked for debt collection, if you can believe it or not. That seemed like a job for me because I'm a big guy, but I fucking hated it because it's the worst. It's absolutely the worst. But yeah, Zumba instructor is probably one of the most interesting, but it was like only 3 weeks, a couple of classes. I used to teach Taekwondo on the sides as well. But hopefully my upcoming job is going to be interesting. I hope I'll be able to confirm that soon, because that would be great. It's not in games, but it will allow me to go to every conference I want to. So that's good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so. Some of the more interesting jobs I had was I used to be a newspaper delivery person.
Mm-hmm. I did that for 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah. and the Sunday paper was the worst because it was all these thick papers and you'd have to dump them off. Yeah. And then I was a guinea pig breeder. So weird.
Yes.
So weird.
We have a couple of minutes. Can you get into this?
I loved animals. I
Yeah.
always did. And I wanted to be a vet like any
Yeah.
kid when I was young. And I ended up getting 2 guinea pigs, and I didn't, realize that they were just going to mate and have these babies. And they
Yeah.
have like 6 babies at once, full
Yeah.
hair, eyes open, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So my guinea pig, they got pregnant because I was like, what's wrong with my female guinea pig? They're like, she's pregnant.
Again.
So I end up going to my local pet store.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oh, my guinea pig's pregnant, I was like, how much if I was to sell them to you? And I was literally like 12 years old. They were
Yeah.
probably like, who the hell is this kid?
Yeah.
And they were like $5 a guinea pig.
Yeah.
And she would pop out 6 every time. And I was
Yeah.
like, score. So
That is
they would
so
have
funny.
babies, and then I would separate the male from the female.
Yeah.
And then I would sell the babies, and then I put the male and female back, and then she would have more babies, and and it was like $30 every
Yeah.
time when you're 12 back then.
Yeah.
That was like awesome for me to get my candy and
That is
whatever else,
so funny.
stickers.
It's
I was
no
a
wonder
huge
you're
sticker
successful.
collector.
Yeah. You know
So-
what I used to do when I was a kid? Me and my cousin, we were best friends. We would go to do flea markets. We'd get all our parents' old
Yeah.
crap and we would sell it on the street on a carpet. But all the kids in my neighborhood would do that. So what we did, like we would take some money we made and then we'd go to all the other kids' crap and then we would buy the nice things off their carpet and put it on our carpet, but we would increase the prices. That's a good stuff. But when you had a bad buy, then you wasted all your ice cream money. But it's so funny breeding
Guinea pigs. I know.
That is
Crazy.
hilarious.
I did that for a while, and I
Yeah.
thought about it. I'm like, how ballsy of me to like go up to my pet shop. Like, who knows what they were paying from
Yeah.
like an actual breeder?
Yeah.
And they had this like 12-year-old kid roll up and dump their 6 guinea pigs like
Yeah.
every couple of months. I was
That's-
excited.
that is
It
so
was
funny.
awesome.
That is the funniest story I've ever heard on this show, at least. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so my next trip is Dice. Are you going to be there?
No. I'm lucky if I make it to East, like 1 or 2 maybe a year if I'm lucky. Because if I'm still doing this on the side, it doesn't pay the bills. I have to deal with holidays and spending time with the family because they also like me to be there when I go on vacation. So we'll see. Like I would love to do PAX East. I would love to go west at one point. I might skip E3 this year on purpose because I'm not sure if it's going to be a big thing. I have a good feeling about PSX 2019 if they're going to do it. So if I'm going to do a West Coast trip, it's going to be that one.
I know. I've been seeing a lot of buzz about that lately.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I can do the combo with Game Awards and PSX, it would be fantastic. So hopefully I'll see you there live because it's been too long that we actually got to hang out for a little bit and you can kick my ass in push-ups and all the things that you do.
Oh God, I'm so behind. I know. I saw like Ray posted something like, "Oh, I'm still out," and
Yeah.
I just did 45 push-ups.
Yeah.
There was a push-up contest, and I couldn't help but think that Tara, would have smoke kicked all of our asses or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, 45? I'm
That's
like,
a lot.
that's a lot.
I wonder if that's chest to ground, but we'll
So
Well,
shit like that.
yeah.
You talk about inspiration. Like
Yeah.
now I'm there and I do push-ups every day at the gym
Yeah.
because I'm like, I got to beat Ray. That's all I keep thinking about. I'm
Yeah.
like, next time I
Gotta
see
beat
Ray,
Ray.
I got to beat Ray.
that damn Carrillo. We gotta
That's
beat
it.
him. Yeah, that's good.
That's it.
good.
That's all the incentive I need. Challenge.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm gonna think of some cool challenges for you throughout the year because I know we're gonna keep you busy. So Tara, this was absolutely delightful. I always end the show on a segment I call Podcast and Shill. So you are in PR. I'm sure you have something to shill for or to promote. But first, yourself, where can we find you who want to follow more Tara?
On Twitter at Tara M. Bruno, or on Facebook or on LinkedIn.
All right, excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I don't have a website yet. That's coming.
That's coming. It should be.
I did things a little backwards.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's-
everybody already knows who you are.
Like I said,
yeah.
this network thing sort of, it just happened very quickly, and I was like, "What is that?" I got to capture that somewhere, so I'm working on it.
Yeah, all right. And anything you want to promote? Anything you're working on something cool that we should pay attention to? I know there's a cool controller coming up soon.
Oh my goodness, there's so many things I want to promote. I'm sure you could just follow me on Twitter because I feel like then I'm biased if I just pay attention to one. But yes,
okay.
there is.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true.
But there's a lot of cool things that I feel very fortunate to work on, and I'm really so happy that people like you and everybody is just super supportive. And we're just going to keep kicking butt.
Yeah. Well, I think you should do more podcasts because you're so good at it, and it's
oh God,
it's so much fun. Hey man, you can plug whatever you want on these podcasts.
Greg's been talking about having me on the Games Cast, so who knows?
Oh, that would be great.
Maybe I'll do a cameo for like 5 minutes. But the thing is, it's so funny. My husband, I told him, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this interview, whatever, and I need these headsets. Yeah. And he was like, keep it clean, because, Jersey, and then I curse a lot, and I'm like, I know, I'm going to try really hard.
I think you did remarkably
I did well!
Yeah,
I did well! I can't believe it, yay!
Yeah, maybe but by the end, we'll drop one F-bomb.
I think you did more than me.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah. I get.
I'm rubbing off on you somehow.
I know. It's bad. So I'm gonna shill. I'm gonna shill for something weird. I'm not sure if this still has relevance by the time this goes up. But Greg Miller from the Kind of Funny Games Daily is doing a up-and-comer. It's not a contest. You can just nominate someone who you think should get a little bit more eyeballs, and he's gonna use his platform to do that, and he's going to fly that person to San Francisco and put him up for a week. So, if you're listening to this, you enjoy the show, and you kind of think like, hey, this WoW guy should have a bigger audience than he already has, you can go on his website, go to his Twitter. He has the whole thing up there in his pinned tweet, and then you can nominate just a random person, like this guy, for example, and then maybe if enough people do that, he'll pay attention, and I'll maybe we have the opportunity to host the show with him. That will be fantastic. So that's my shill. I'm gonna hard shill for myself today, and look at these beautiful headphones that I'm wearing.
I'm glad you're wearing them.
Yeah, these are the Astro A50s. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Astro Gaming, for those. So Tara, this is. I am, by the way, the Hashtagonist. If you didn't know that yet, you can find me at the Hashtagonist on Twitter, Patreon, and all the other things as well. So, Tara, again, thanks so much for coming. This was so much fun.
I'm so glad we were able. I'm so glad we were able to pull it off, because I literally texted you yesterday. And I was like, next Friday. You were like, no, I'm thinking that. Yeah. I was like, that's fine. Yeah. Sorry.
I would have made it work. I would have made it work for you, Tara, because you're the best.
I know.
So if you're still listening, you know that I cannot close off a show, but I'm going to do it anyway. So again, thank Tara. Follow her on Twitter because she's the best.
Thank you. And thank you so much. Thank you.
And we'll talk again next week with a cool new guest, and it's going to be Ian Hink from Easy Allies. And